Welcome to the Mastering E-commerce Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Eitan co-CEO of Vimy. In an era of rising acquisition costs and increased competition, this podcast is dedicated to helping you drive sales, engage customers, and build meaningful communities so you can turn passive visitors into active buyers. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss out on future content. Now let's get started with the episode. Hello listeners, welcome to another episode of Mastering E-commerce Marketing. Today I have a special guest, Jacob Shipley, who is head of social media and at Benzinga. So Jacob is really the person that all of us are here to learn from. If you want to gain followers, big communities, Jacob is probably the right person you want to speak with. So we're really looking forward for this episode. Jacob has more than 40,000 followers on LinkedIn, build communities and audience ranging, millions of followers in various companies. So we are here to learn about how do you grow organically? How do you work with SEO? How do you focus on content and building communities? So Jacob, it's really a pleasure to have you here. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. That's very kind. Really excited to chat.
Great. So tell us, maybe we'll start from the beginning. What inspired you to pursue a career in organic social media and marketing?
Yeah, I wish there was a really cool story that was like, the jobs opened.
It can be a boring one. It's okay.
Yeah. And the voice of the Lord said, pursue a career in organic social.
An aha moment or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Really, my wife and I had just graduated college when we got married, and my wife still had a year of college, but we knew we were young, 21, 22 and married, and we just wanted to do something new and different. And so I kind of applied for, I think, 200 jobs just all across the country. I was like, let's just get out of here and find somewhere cool. And so applied to a ton of jobs. And the one that we really felt called to, that felt like it was a really great fit, was at YouVersion, which is an app owned by a local church called Life Church based out of Oklahoma City. And YouVersion is, if you search Bible in the App Store, YouVersion is the first one that pops up. They are, I think they're closing in on, something like 1 billion downloads now. And so I was their first social media hire. They had a social media presence before, but I was the first hire. That was all I focused on. So just kind of fell into it and really fell in love with it. It was, so much fun, such a cool culture to be a part of. And just kind of fell in love with social media there.
Wow. So why do you think they hired you initially?
That's a great question. I always joke that I was unqualified to even read the job description. Really had no business in that world. I paid for college by filming wedding videos on the side. Me and my roommate, we just, we bought a camera on credit, and we just, anytime somebody got married, we'd ask if we could film it for a couple $100, and then kind of built that into a business. And so I felt pretty good about my content creation ability. And they felt like, they knew enough about strategy that we could kind of combine the two, and, but probably more luck than anything else, just kind of fell into it.
Exactly. So we found the nice story about the wedding filming gigs, right? That got you your first job to an amazing career, right? Interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, in YouVersion, for example, you help the company, you help them grow, obviously on Instagram, creating this global footprint. You mentioned 1 billion downloads. And you do that today also, right? In Benzinga, obviously, gathered in a few months, more than 300,000 followers. So tell us what's happening right now on social media. For any company out there, a brand, what they need to focus on? What's the strategies they need to implement going forward to 2025 almost?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm thinking about it in kind of two categories. One, there's the strategy, which is always going to work. We're leaning into human psychology and, just human nature of what is going to work. How does that manifest on certain platforms? That's the second category of that's constantly changing. When people say social media changes every day, kind of, right? The strategies, the algorithms is kind of always ebbing and flowing, but the core strategy of what works to get a group of people together. That's always worked. That always will work. And so that's how can we give our audience, well, one, who is our audience? And then two, how can we give them what they want? What really we think we know what they want, but what do they actually want, right? Like, what do they really, when they got on Instagram, when they got on TikTok or Twitter or LinkedIn, what was their mindset? What are they hoping to find? What are they hoping to accomplish with that time on social media? And how can we cater towards that? And then the second category is when you think about the human nature of like the companies like LinkedIn, Meta, X, what do these companies want? And then how can we provide what the audience wants in a way that these companies want to distribute that content? So example would be on Facebook. If you put a link in your post, well, think about what's in the best interest of Facebook. They want people on the platform for a long time because they see more ads and that's how they make more money. If they click a link and they leave the platform, well, now they're not doing what Facebook wants. So it makes sense that Facebook would show that post to less people. So just thinking about those two, like, who's your audience? What do they really actually want? What questions are they asking? How can you answer that? And then how can you format that in a way that the algorithm wants to distribute that content?
These are all not easy tasks, right? Just understand what the audience wants, what the algorithm wants, what the platform wants. There is any methodology here? What is the way when you discover and get more insights about, all these questions?
Yeah, I mean, this because you get into the tactical stuff of like I'm a big fan of like gummy search for searching Reddit. So, like if for at Benzinga, right? Like we're catering to anybody interested in finance. So at the very, very niche level would be like people who make a living by day trading. And then at a very broad level, it's just anybody that's like, I wonder what the stock market's doing today. Or at an even broader level of what is Elon Musk up to these days? What is Jeff Bezos up to these days? That kind of content. So just like saying like, what are other people talking about? And then I think too, there are two kind of strategies. There's a friend of mine named Jake Bajorsis that runs an agency out of Kansas City that he came up with this analogy that I think is brilliant. He said, so many companies are starting at the top with, well, what content do I have? And then how can I push that down to social? How can I, we have we have these interviews, we have these decks. How can I just shift that and push it down to social? And that's how most companies are thinking about it. And as a result, most companies' social media presences look the exact same, right? There's not a lot of like uniqueness or a reason to follow one versus the other. Mm-hmm. The alternative that he suggests is this bottom-up strategy of when your target audience is on social media, what other kind of content are they consuming? So like they're not just following businesses, right? They're following influencers, creators, their friends, their family. What kind of content is the platform catering to? So for like TikTok, right? So like it's, we know this now, but like when it first came out, it was like, okay, this is a unique format of video. We can't just take, these promo videos we have and chop them up into a minute and put them onto social. Like the kind of content, this like, okay, man on the street content, that's the type of content that's working really well on TikTok. How can we take from the bottom what our audience is actually consuming, filter that up to say, okay, now knowing like what's working, how can we create content that looks like that? So starting at the bottom of like just scrolling, it sounds, super complex, but scrolling Twitter or in TikTok or Facebook in the mindset of like, this is who I am, who is your avatar, what content's popping up, and then how can you create stuff that looks, feels, and plays like that kind of content.
Mm-hmm. So it seems there is a lot of like manual work doing this research, right? Although it's a consumer environment, D2C type of effort, that target market for Benzinga, for example, it's really, really defined, right? Those people who are day traders or interested in stock market, and you just follow them, or you just try to analyze what they're looking for, where they spend their time on social with influencers. They're following not just companies, but also individuals and trying to figure out what's happening in their brains right now, right? I mean, it's like doing all this. It's very,
That's definitely where I'd start. And I mean, it is, there are a million tools that you can use, right, to like audience intelligence. I love Spark Toro, and there are a bunch of places you can look for that. But you get a broad look at what kinds of content, what types of content are performing well, what topics are being covered. Again, a million tools. Answer the Public. You can search and see like what are people searching for? How can we answer those questions? But then it becomes very quickly a data and analytics game of, all right, we posted 7 types of this content, 9 types of this content. This consistently beats that by 17%. You know what I mean? It just, you lean into, if something's never getting results, cut it, quit wasting time and energy and resources on it. If something's showing promise, it's like, well, let's do 2x, 3x, 4x more of that and see if we can really kickstart that. Benzinga, when I first started in January, we had, I think, like 70, 80, 85,000 followers, something like that. And now we're at 220,000 followers. But like probably 110,000 of those followers came from one post that we had early on that was just like Jerome Powell is the head of the Fed. And so there was a video that we made of him coming out to speak, and he just said, "Good afternoon." And then like the beat dropped and the markets went crazy. And so just kind of a joke, it was just like kind of playing around with the fact that like, yeah, Jerome Powell's 2 words moved the market. But it hit on, this, it doesn't happen by accident. Obviously it looks like it was just like thrown together, but it was like every piece of that video, my team, had data to back it up of this. Whenever we use Jerome Powell, people find him interesting. People find this music interesting. The font needs to be, this font works better than that font. And so just over time, you collect data to say, hey, this is really going to work. And then there's also just, anybody that says there's no luck involved is lying. Like there is some luck to it, we've looked at that same video or many iterations of that video that have never gotten close to those results again. You find a wave and you kind of ride it.
Yeah. I mean, I truly understand exactly what you mean. And we post daily also on social, and sometimes we get this 100,000 impressions, 60,000 impressions on a post. And I mean, I just spent like 5 minutes on this post, right? And just creating, 60-second video or whatever, few text. And at the beginning, it's really a surprise, and it's not, I mean, there is a methodology, we analyze things, but why this has worked, right?
Sure.
I think you mentioned also with Jerome Powell, I mean, it was a video, right? So I think video is probably important for all the platforms there. They're encouraging use video because more spending time on their platform, I guess. So although it takes a lot of effort to store that video, to stream it, but on the other hand, they like video, right? And we know that. And so this is one thing. So like the media type, whether it's a picture, whether it's a text or video, that is one, let's say, sphere, right? Then you have the content categories, maybe. As you said, any company has the buckets of content they want to push to the market, but probably those content ideas are associated by various keywords or some topics, right? And you can differentiate those successful posts based on the different topics that was been discussed, I guess, very, very clearly. But this is also changes over time. I mean, what is the frequency of those things changing? I mean, in terms of, I think video is going to remain here for a very long time, right? It's going to be very powerful. I think it's clear, right? And also, I mean, in terms of content, I mean, people are probably interested today about something, but next week it can shift, right? Dramatically, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a group. So I think, yes, you're 100% right. Like content, like formats maybe of like written word, image, video, there's that. But yeah, content type. I mean, like Benzinga, I think is a good example because it's very headline driven, right? Like if I think it was yesterday, Elon Musk, Tesla sold a bunch of Bitcoin for the first time in 2 years. Well, to a very specific audience, that's huge news. And so we didn't know that, right? That morning, we didn't wake up knowing we're going to post about this today. Yeah. And so then there's some topics that like, hey, this is going to be, okay, AI, right? Like AI has been very popular, getting more popular, or like people are talking about it. That's more of like a long-term trend. But like, yeah, the Tesla selling Bitcoin. Well, that's like, we probably have 36 hours to be, or else it becomes old news, right? So we have to be able to move really quickly and, capitalize on that. And so then it becomes, I think, building processes that empower your team to move quickly, right? Like everybody on the social team at Benzinga is, absolutely incredible, world-class at what they do. And if we built an 8-layer approval system to where, you have to submit it to approval, I approve it, then my boss approves it, then his boss approves it, then his boss approves it. Well, now it's been 7 to 14 days and the post is useless. So you have to be able to move quickly and, capitalize on that. And I would categorize that as like top of funnel content. And then so like your overall marketing funnel, right? You got top of funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel channels. But I'm thinking about it very similarly for organic social, of those like timely, broad, mass appeal, get people to share the content. Like that's top of funnel social content. And then we have posts that maybe they only get 20% of the engagements that a top of the funnel post gets. That's okay, because that's serving a really important purpose of building authority, establishing, Benzinga really knows their stuff.
Important.
This is a level of insight I'm not getting somewhere else, right? And that builds authority and loyalty. And then the smallest, is the bottom of the funnel content, where we're saying, hey, sign up for our newsletter. Have you, did you know that we offered this? If you like this, you like that, and finding ways to weave that content in. But that's probably more answer than you wanted, but that's kind of how I'm thinking about it.
No, I mean, it's very, very important. I mean, it needs to have like a content strategy that is probably different in all these stages of the marketing funnel, right? So like evaluating, considering, decision, it's like a top funnel, middle funnel, bottom funnel. I mean, different type of content is very important to establish, because new users who just been introduced to you, they can't be pitched with sign up to our newsletter. They need to know you better, right? So you need to provide all these valued content and all. Okay, so great. So there is a research phase where probably you're zeroing into some kind of a topic. Creatives come up with few ideas, right? And then what's the next step? I mean, how do you position this in the various platforms? Where do you post? You mentioned those 220,000 followers. Are they on which platforms? How do you make this, decision about the format and how to post on each one of those platforms?
Yeah. So I'll talk about Benzinga specifically, and then maybe broaden out a minute. But so Benzinga specifically, that 110,000 followers we got from that one post was just on Instagram, and that was I've never seen anything like that before, and probably will never see anything like that again. To where in the span of a week we grew by about 100,000 followers.
So they actually click follow, right? Just from that post, 110,000 people. Wow.
Yeah. So it was amazing. It was. Like I said, I've never seen, I think we just it was a perfect storm. But so we are lucky in the sense that we have a lot of writers on staff that are constantly writing news stories. And so then our job becomes, we're not just like, well, what do we post about today? We've got a constant influx of stories. And then we can say, okay, like these stories are really, really popular. People are reading this. How can we're not just going to copy and paste the story and put a link, on Facebook. We need to make it feel like this story was made for Facebook or for Instagram. And so how can we format that? So, you mentioned content categories earlier. If it is a very timely, like this happened today and people need to know about it today, we probably don't have time for a video, right? Because then we, script, somebody needs to record it, we need to edit it. We'll do an image, right? We'll use either an AI generated image or have a designer whip one up and then post that out. If it's more evergreen, we've got a little bit of time. Yeah, we'll absolutely let's make a short form video out of that. And then, that can go in a lot of different places, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube shorts, we're having a lot of success with. And even now, like LinkedIn, it's kind of funny. I started writing on LinkedIn because I feel like I'm better at writing than I am anything else. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to go to LinkedIn. I'm going to write every day because I'm a better writer. And now LinkedIn's pushing video, right? So it's, there's definitely like a move in that direction. So then how can we make that video however we want. I'd say like more broadly, I realize like we are in a very, great spot at Benzinga to where we have a more fully fleshed out team of writers and, content people, but I was a one person social media team, for a long time too. So I get that not everybody can do that. I'd say how I would think about it there is don't feel like you need to be everywhere at once, right? If you feel like we've got the resources to do images really, really well, let's lean into the platforms where that's a viable strategy. And even TikTok now, like we're seeing a lot of our top performing posts are consistently carousels that are just images. And so, okay, well, let's create what we can create really, really well, distribute it where it makes sense. I think, that the quickest recipe for burnout is trying to be everywhere at the same time, do it all really well. And typically, the result there is it's just, you'll be present everywhere, but you won't really be growing anywhere. I'd rather have a lot of followers on one or two. And you see it with my personal brand, right? Like I only have a following on LinkedIn. And that's because that's all that's what I have time for. And I'm able to do it well. And I don't have the bandwidth. I would love to do short form video and try to grow a TikTok following. And I have before, and it usually is 4 videos and then I get tired and I stop. Right. And so it's just, what can you do really well? And then lean into that.
Yeah. I mean, today with all the AI tools, you can repurpose very fast,
Totally.
content, but it still requires you to take a really strategic decision about the platform you're planning to focus, like your number one priority, and all the rest, I think it's secondary. Yeah, it's very easy to take this long form content and probably create a short form video out of it, or like a text snippet of Twitter or something, which is fine. Do that with all these tools, but again, commit to one platform and understand it, thoroughly, and be quite active, not just posting but engaging as well. So it's obviously
that's what AI can't do very well yet is the community aspect.
Yeah,
there's this one LinkedIn page that comments on every single one of my posts, and it's clearly AI generated, right? Like the comment is so clear, and I reply to it every time, every day. I reply to this, and I make a joke about, I don't know. I just try to think of something witty to like make fun of the fact that they're using AI generated comments, and I still do it every day. And it's like AI has not gotten that piece of it figured out, and so I think that's also like, yes, AI can be very quick to cross pollinate content to different platforms, but community management and like community engagement is still a superpower. If you can, if you can be replying to everybody that comments to you and then inserting yourselves into relevant conversations with a real brand voice and tone that doesn't feel AI generated, that will accelerate follower growth just as much, if not more, than the perfect content strategy.
Yes.
So you're 100% right. It's AI can help a ton, but like that piece of it for now is still very manual, that you can't be everywhere at once, Yeah.
So Jacob, what is the difference between followers and communities? I mean, for you.
Yeah, I mean, we've all seen, we've all seen the accounts that have 1 million followers, but they get 17 likes on a post, right?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't really, there's no value in that other than maybe it makes you feel good to have 1 million followers, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're a business or a brand, my guess is you don't really want the followers. You really want the ROI, right? You want to be able to say this is a marketing channel, and you have to go about it a little bit of a different way with organic social, because it's not just this post made this much money, right? It's a very long drawn out process. It's very hard to, impossible to track every, iota of data.
Yeah.
But I'd say, the classic, like 1,000, true fans is better than 1 million people that just click the follow button. And we're experiencing that a lot with Benzinga's Instagram right now. Like I said, we got like 110,000 followers from that one post. So now we're at, today, we actually crossed 220,000 followers total. Our rate of growth has dropped dramatically not because less people are following us, but because more people are unfollowing us. And that's okay. The same thing happened when I was at YouVersion. We were losing 1,000 followers a day, which I was okay with that because we were gaining 4,000 followers a day. So, but we were still losing 1,000. But it's when people click that follow button, they're not saying, I'm on board, I'm a fan forever, right? They're saying, I'm going to opt in to your content. We'll see how I like it. And if they don't like it, if your content isn't making their life better, you really want them to unfollow, because if they're not engaging with your content, the algorithm's not going to show it. And that's sending all the wrong signals to the algorithm. It's actually like, I would rather, if Benzinga's content isn't helping you be a better investor or educating you in a way that, you feel is valuable, click the unfollow button, because we don't want to clog up your feed. Like, we want to build a community and audience of people that really look forward to what we have to say. And then there's a two-way dialogue of, it's not just a megaphone of us, spouting information, but we feel like there's some kind of, conversation or community going on.
Yes. What about the email side of things, the newsletters? What are some of the best practices today to increase, newsletter subscribers count?
Yeah. I mean, I think that falls into right at the top. We talked about like the two categories of like the strategy or the methodology is going to kind of stay the same, but like the specific tactics is going to change. I am a self-proclaimed organic social media guy. Email is something, I'm kind of trying to fly the plane as I build it, just figuring it out as we go. And I've had a lot of success just personally on LinkedIn, leaning into what the platform allows. So for a while, LinkedIn allowed, you could pin a comment on every post. Okay. So every comment I pinned was subscribe to my newsletter. And then if you have a post that gets in front of 1 million people, well, that's good for a couple thousand email signups, which is awesome. And then we've also experimented with ManyChat or any kind of Instagram automation to when people, send us the word news and we'll get you signed up for our free newsletter. And it kind of automates that sign up process just to make it a little bit easier. Another, Chris Kerner is a friend of mine from Twitter. His handle is MHP_guy, which stands for Mobile Home Park Guy. He has a business of RV parks and mobile home parks. He does a great job with that. His content is so valuable that he'll pack so much information into a thread or into a short form video. And then he'll just finish it with, I'm sending, a guide on this, sign up here, or, just a very natural tie-in to where it pairs the CTA with the content. So if it's, I'm trying to think of an example so like one of his businesses is he owns a tree trimming business outside of Dallas. And so, he might do a short form video on that. And I'll say, if you want a guide with everything you need to know about how to start this business, do this, right? So it's not just sign up for my newsletter. It's, if you made it to the end of this video, there's a very high likelihood you want more of this type of content. Here's how you can get it. And so, just leaning into that and then constantly thinking about how can we do it in a way that the algorithm's not going to throttle the reach of that post.
Yes. So for a lot of brands out there, they're just starting out, or probably they are small to medium size. I mean, it's very, very difficult, even after implementing all these great, processes and tactics to break through, right? And a lot of noise out there. And there's a lot of discussions these days around founder-led content and employee-generated content. And what are your thoughts on this? Is it something that you feel are becoming well accepted by executives and leaders out there, that part of their job is also to create content, not just managing their own territories, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super bullish on it. I totally agree. I mean, when you think about, again, that human psychology, people follow people, right? They follow people that they like, they know, and they trust. And so if there's a way you can make your founder be somebody that your target audience wants to follow and learn from, that's great. If you can build out a team of your employees that are becoming thought leaders in your industry, that's the ideal scenario. there's a company that really blew up doing this on LinkedIn back in maybe 2021 called Gravy. They were a failed payment processing platform. So when credit card payments failed, companies would outsource this work to Gravy. Gravy would manually call these people and say, hey, they would try to recover that payment for their client. And they just built out a masterclass of their CEO, which is super active on LinkedIn. And then they just empowered their employees. They're like, hey, we want you to feel free to use company time, company resources to post on LinkedIn, build a brand. If you want to talk about Gravy, great. If you don't, that's also okay. We want you to build a brand. And as a result, like so many of their employees have now built massive brands that have led to, their own businesses around, from their LinkedIn profiles. And I think what scares a lot of businesses is Gravy's CEO had came out and said, if your LinkedIn personal brand takes you to a different company or a better offer, we're okay with that. We want what's best for you. We want to, they positioned this personal brand as a benefit of like, we want to allow you to do this and whatever come of it, however it works out. But they got a massive following out of that. They grew to the point where I don't want to get these stats wrong, but I think it was in sales calls, over 50% of inbound leads said, I saw content from one of your employees and that's how I found you. Yeah. Right. And so it's like you can't put a price tag on that. That's, multi 6 figures worth of revenue. And does it come with a cost? Sure. I mean, employees might build a brand, they get an offer, they leave. But you're buying into the long-term value of it. So all that is a really long-winded way of saying I'm super bullish on founder-led content. I think it's, it's super powerful if done correctly.
Great, Jacob. Really super interesting. Any final tips maybe to other head of marketings out there?
I think we all know organic social media is a long game, that it's, you're not going to get results, sometimes you do, right? There are the companies that are the outliers, but it's a long-term play. And when I think about my personal brand on LinkedIn, I wrote every single day for 10 months before I got really any results. So that was 10 months almost 300 days of, 2 likes, 3 likes, 4 likes, 1 like, just nothing happening. And then I had a post pop and I learned a lot from it and I was able to really accelerate my growth. And it's just so often quality is on the other side of quantity that it just takes a lot of reps to really figure out. You were asking about audience intelligence of how do you know what your audience wants? Sometimes it's just you post 300 times and you see what they like, right? And then you learn from that. And obviously that's not an ideal scenario, but I've had a few people message me on LinkedIn, what do I do to grow a personal brand? And my answer is always the same. It's post every day for 1 year. And if you don't get any results, send me a DM. Nobody's ever sent me a DM because you either get results or you gave up before you posted free, right? So just, it's a long-term play. Stick with it.
Yes. And it seems that it doesn't work. Like it's not a linear growth, right? Okay, you have 2 likes, then you have 10, then 20 or 100. It seems like suddenly you have one of these posts that are like exploding, right? And then you learn from it something and you continue from there. And there is another one like that, maybe other 2 months along the line. So it's like you have these sudden spikes along the way that you need to analyze, make you think why it happened, and actually build the whole strategy around that. So this is probably the way things are working in terms of growing on social. So great, Jacob. I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the end of this episode. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe so you won't miss any of our future content. And if you could share this with just one person, it would make all the difference. Are you looking to accelerate your sales with the power of shoppable video? Explore Vimy, the video commerce platform that includes live shopping, shoppable video, and social commerce capabilities. Visit Vimy at www.vimy.net, that's VIMMI.net, where you can start with a free for life package. We appreciate your support and look forward for bringing you more valuable insights in our next episode.